Quadruple amputee athlete arrested for allegedly killing his friend. That athlete is Dayton Webber, 27 years old, no arms, no legs, a professional cornhole player on ESPN, and, as of March 23, 2026, a man in a Virginia jail facing first-degree murder charges. Just before 10:30 on a Sunday night in Plata, Maryland, two people jumped out of a moving car, ran to the side of the road, and flagged down the first police officer they could find. They had just watched their friend get shot. The shooter was still behind the wheel, and the victim was still in the front seat. The officer took their statement, and what came next was a manhunt, a body found in a stranger's front yard, and an arrest 115 miles away in Virginia, all within 12 hours. According to prosecutors, on March 22, 2026, Dayton Webber made his disability the last thing anyone was thinking about. His friend, Bradrick Michael Wells, was 27 years old. He was sitting in the front seat, and he did not make it home. To understand why this case became a national story within hours, you need to spend a few minutes with who Dayton Webber actually was before March 22nd. His father, Mike Webber, was there from the beginning, photographed on the sidelines at wrestling meets when Dayton was 11, watching his son compete at the Unique Sports Academy in Waldorf, Maryland. NBC4 Washington profiled Dayton that same year after learning that the young amputee was wrestling, playing video games, riding dirt bikes, and playing football. He told reporters at the time that wrestling was his favorite sport and that he simply tried to do things his own way. As he got older, Webber expanded that list considerably. He learned to write. He fished and hunted regularly, posting videos of his outdoor life to social media. He climbed into deer stands, he raced go-karts, and, by his own account in a 2023 Today Show essay, taught himself to drive by starting on a go-kart track. He also taught himself to fire weapons. Multiple videos on a YouTube channel believed to belong to Webber show him loading a magazine and firing a 9mm handgun using the residual upper portions of his arms. No prosthetics, no adaptive devices, just repetition and strength. He also posted videos of himself firing rifles. Cornhole came later. He started in the backyard with friends, then moved to weekly tournaments at his local American Legion. In 2020, ESPN named him the best cornhole player in Maryland, overall, across all players. In 2021, he competed in the ACL World Championships. In the 2021-22 season, he went fully professional and became the first quadruple amputee to ever compete in the American Cornhole League. He played for the Carolina Coasters, later the Kentucky Colonels. He told NBC's Today Show in 2023, "I went from overcoming a serious blood infection and undergoing a quadruple amputation as a baby to becoming a professional athlete as an adult." He was known around his community. Christopher Nevitt told reporters he had played cornhole with Webber at a tournament at the nearby Green Turtle restaurant. When the arrest made headlines, Nevitt was stunned. "I just saw that guy not too long ago," he said. That was the public version of Dayton Webber. Inspirational story, ESPN feature, award-winning smile. The mugshot taken by Virginia authorities on March 23rd shows a different expression entirely. Quick note before we go further. If you found this breakdown useful, subscribe. This channel covers true crime by going straight to the evidence, the charging documents, the investigators on record, the forensic details. No filler, no speculation. We cover cases like this every week. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update on this one, because this case is still moving. Here is what the charging documents say happened based on the statement of charges filed by Detective M. Bigelow of the Charles County Sheriff's Office. On the evening of Sunday, March 22, 2026, Dayton Webber was driving his vehicle through Plata, Maryland. In the front passenger seat was 27-year-old Bradrick Michael Wells, a Waldorf resident who knew Webber personally. In the back seat were two other passengers, identified in court documents only as Witness 1 and Witness 2. All four people in the car knew each other. According to the charging documents, Webber had picked up the two backseat passengers from work that evening, with Wells already sitting up front when they got in. They were traveling along Radio Station Road when, at some point during the drive, an argument broke out between Webber and Wells. Investigators have described it as heated. They have not publicly disclosed what it was about. According to Witness 1 and Witness 2, Webber drew a firearm during that argument and shot Bradrick Wells twice in the head. Then, Webber pulled over near the intersection of Radio Station Road and Liano Drive. He asked the two backseat passengers to help him remove Wells from the car. Both refused. They got out of the vehicle and left on foot. Webber drove away with Wells still inside. At just before 10:30 p.m., Witness 1 and Witness 2 flagged down officers from the La Plata Police Department near La Plata Road and Radio Station Road. They gave a full account of what they had witnessed. Both positively identified Webber as the shooter and Wells as the victim. That identification is documented in the charging statement. At that moment, investigators had two eyewitnesses. What they did not have was Webber, his vehicle, or a confirmed body. The Charles County Sheriff's Office began canvassing. Deputies coordinated with La Plata officers to search areas where Webber might have gone. The search turned up nothing immediately. Then, roughly 2 hours after the initial report, a 911 call came in from a resident on Newport Church Road in Charlotte Hall, a community about 14 miles east of La Plata. There was a body in their front yard. Officers responded. They found Bradrick Michael Wells and pronounced him dead at the scene. The formal address listed in the first-degree murder charge, 1015 Newport Church Road, Charlotte Hall, Charles County, Maryland. Webber was gone, and the investigation crossed state lines. After detectives obtained an arrest warrant for Dayton Webber, law enforcement began tracking his vehicle. The trail led south, out of Maryland entirely, across Virginia, all the way to Charlottesville, a city roughly 115 miles from La Plata. About a 2.5-hour drive. What cracked the case open was a gas station camera. According to the Albemarle County Police Department, one of their officers reviewed security footage from a local gas station, recognized the suspect from the active warrant, and located Webber nearby. He was at a hospital in Charlottesville receiving treatment for a medical issue that has not been publicly disclosed. Officers waited outside the hospital. When Webber was released, Albemarle County Police took him into custody without incident. It was Monday morning, March 23rd, less than 12 hours after the shooting. He was charged in Virginia as a fugitive from justice and held in a Virginia jail. His defense attorney confirmed his next scheduled hearing was set for March 27th, with extradition to Maryland expected to follow. Once back in Charles County, he faces formal prosecution under Maryland law. Court records reviewed by multiple outlets show Webber had accumulated over a dozen traffic violations over the past decade, primarily in St. Mary's County. No prior violent criminal history has been publicly reported. The Charles County Sheriff's Office spokesperson, Diane Richardson, addressed the question that had already taken over social media. How does a quadruple amputee drive a car, fire a weapon, and move a body? Her answer: what I would say to answer any questions about how he did this, I would simply refer people to the internet. They can go to his YouTube page. Mr. Webber is a well-documented individual. There's been many stories written about him and plenty of videos to see. She added, it's early in the investigation, but there's no evidence to suggest anyone else was involved in the shooting and that he acted alone. The American Cornhole League confirmed in a public statement that Webber had not been an active participant in the league since late 2024. The league said its thoughts were with those impacted, including the family and loved ones of Bradrick Michael Wells, and declined to comment further while proceedings are ongoing. Dayton Webber faces 5 charges in total, filed by Detective M. Bigelow in Charles County District Court. First-degree murder, second-degree murder, 2 counts of assault in the first degree, and use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. The dual murder charges are standard practice in Maryland and most states. First-degree murder requires prosecutors to prove premeditation, that Webber made a deliberate, conscious decision to kill before the trigger was pulled. Second degree covers killings that are intentional but arise from extreme emotional escalation rather than planning. Filing both gives a jury options. If the evidence supports premeditation, first degree stands. If the jury concludes the killing was impulsive but intentional, the product of a fight that went further than it should have, second degree provides a path to conviction. Under Maryland law, both carry serious penalties. On the premeditation question, legal experts consistently point out that premeditation does not require a plan. It can be established in seconds. The deliberate act of reaching for a weapon, taking aim, and firing twice, in sequence, is the kind of decision-making that prosecutors have used to argue premeditation in comparable cases. Webber's documented experience with firearms will likely be part of that argument. So will the two-shot sequence described by witnesses. So will the 115-mile drive to Virginia. As of March 25, 2026, the prosecution's factual foundation looks like this. 2 eyewitnesses who were in the vehicle, saw the shooting happen, refused to help dispose of the victim, and immediately reported what they saw to police. Both have positively identified Webber. A body found at a location consistent with Webber's route out of Charles County. A documented record of Webber handling and firing firearms, posted by Webber himself to his public social media accounts. A documented flight of over 100 miles across state lines, ending in arrest at a Virginia hospital. In Maryland, evidence of flight after a crime is admissible at trial as consciousness of guilt. No defense attorney had been listed in Maryland court records as of March 24th. The case has not yet been formally arraigned in Maryland. This case is pre-trial. The defense has not yet presented its account. Dayton Webber is innocent until proven guilty. We're going to keep following this case as it moves through the Maryland court system, the arraignment, the evidence disclosures, the hearings. If you want to be notified the moment we drop a new update, subscribe now and hit the bell. True crime covered the right way. Facts, evidence, investigation. Every week. As thorough as the charging documents are, several key details remain publicly unknown as of this recording. The motive has not been established. Investigators described the argument as heated, but have not disclosed its subject. Whether this was a long-running conflict between Webber and Wells or something that escalated for the first time that evening is a question that will shape everything: the prosecution's theory, the defense's response, and ultimately what a jury is asked to decide. The firearm has not been publicly confirmed as recovered. The specific weapon used has not been officially named by the Charles County Sheriff's Office, though the charges reference use of a firearm in a felony. If the gun has not been found, investigators will need to rely on witness testimony, forensic evidence from the vehicle, and the medical examiner's findings to establish the weapon and its use. The exact sequence inside the vehicle, where the firearm was stored, how long it took to access, what was said in the seconds before the shots were fired, will be central to the premeditation argument. Investigators will rely heavily on the detailed accounts of Witness 1 and Witness 2, and on any physical evidence recovered during the processing of Webber's car. Whether Webber was using any prosthetic devices or adaptive equipment that night has not been publicly confirmed. This will likely be addressed during the investigation and in any future trial, as it factors directly into the physical reconstruction of events. The reason for Webber's visit to the Charleston hospital remains undisclosed. Whether the medical issue was pre-existing or connected to the events of that evening has not been addressed by authorities. The investigation remains active. Anyone with information is asked to contact Detective R. Johnson at 301-609-6453. Anonymous tips can be submitted to Charles County Crime Solvers at 1-866-411-TIPS or online at charlescountycrimesolvers.com. In the coverage of this case, Bradrick Michael Wells has largely appeared as a supporting detail in someone else's story. He deserves more than that. He was 27 years old. He lived in Waldorf, Maryland, the same community where Dayton Webber grew up, where Mike Webber had watched his son wrestle at the Unique Sports Academy years earlier. Wells and Webber knew each other. They were, by all accounts, friends. On the evening of March 22nd, he was the front seat passenger in a car driven by a man he trusted. He did not make it home. His body was found in a residential front yard on Newport Church Road in Charlotte Hall, a neighborhood he had no particular connection to, on a quiet stretch of road where a stranger called 911 because there was a person in their yard. His family has not made a public statement as of this recording. His name appears once in the American Cornhole League's statement, a league that had nothing to do with him, but felt it was worth saying his name. Bradrick Michael Wells, 27 years old, Waldorf, Maryland. That is what we know publicly. The rest is owed to a complete and honest investigation. Dayton Webber remains in custody in Virginia. His next scheduled court appearance was March 27, 2026. Extradition to Charles County, Maryland is expected to follow, where the Charles County State's Attorney's Office will take over formal prosecution. The American Cornhole League confirmed he had not competed since late 2024. His last team was the Kentucky Colonels. His YouTube channel, the same one that shows him firing a handgun, climbing a tree stand, living the life he built, is still up. 2 witnesses say they watched him shoot Bradrick Wells. A gas station camera helped find him more than 100 miles from where it happened. The charging documents are filed. The process is moving. What happened inside that car on Radio Station Road, what the argument was about, how it escalated, what Webber's own account of events will be, none of that has been answered yet. That is what courts are for. Dayton Webber is innocent until proven guilty. And Bradrick Michael Wells is still dead. We'll be back when the case moves. If you watched this far, you already know what this channel does differently. No dramatization, no guesswork, just the facts of the case clearly laid out, with the investigation at the center. Subscribe and hit the bell. The next hearing in this case is days away, and we will cover it. See you then.